Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of Watch collection. Today is about the last chance before Labor Day. I guess I and several others want to wear their white linen suits. So anyway, I thought, well, I better put it on before it's too late. Okay, what I want to talk about today are the Grand Prix came out with what are called the nominations, either the finalists for the Grand Prix Awards that are in November. And what I did, I went through all of the different categories and I picked out the ones that I would want. These aren't necessarily the ones that'll win. Most of them are ones I couldn't afford, but it'd be sort of nice to have because I like something about the watch or the watchmakers. So anyway, that's what that's about. And each category has a little thing in the lower right-hand corner that tells us what category it was from. The first one is Bernhardt Lederer's 3-time certified observatory chronometer. From the time-only category, 156,600 Swiss francs is way over my own budget. But doesn't mean it wouldn't be a watch I wouldn't mind having. It runs at 3 hertz, and actually it's not 3 hertz, 1.75 hertz, 12,600 semi-oscillations per hour. It's 3 times certified observatory chronometer. What that means is that originally chronometers were certified on the basis of the movements of the planets and so forth through an observatory. So this one was done with 3 different ones, and so it would be sort of an all-time chronometer. I really like this watch. By the way, too, one of the things, we had a watch in this category, our Etude number 2, and it didn't make nominations, but it wasn't anywhere near this expensive. And a lot of people said, well, that's not right. You know, you should have different space. No, it's not. It's like I've seen real expensive watches lose to very inexpensive ones. It's just a lot of things involved. And the only thing involved here, it's just these are cool watches I'd like to have. Okay, moving right along. This next watch is one I have always liked, and this is Hajime Asaoka's Tsunami. Now this is called the Tsunami Art Deco, and this is one of the finalists. And it's got a caliber that's part of the Tsunami project. I wasn't quite sure. It's manual winding, 40 hours power reserve, and it's 2.5 hertz, 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. The thing about this watch that I like is really, if you look at the back, the finishing on this watch is just incredible. It's got a great big balance wheel. Now, the interesting thing, I haven't seen this in any other of the watches, and that's a range. This is a range between 50 and 100,000 Swiss francs. It's another one I can't afford. Now, this third one I really can't afford. The Bethune DB kind of grand complication. I'm not sure where that name came from. 400,000 Swiss francs. And this is in the men's complications category. It's called the Caliber DB 2529 manual winding. Now here, this is one thing usually I wouldn't pick, and that's a watch that runs at 5 hertz. I prefer the lower semi-oscillations per hour. It has a silicon escapement. Now, I've mentioned on more than one occasion my issues with silicon hairspring because you can't adjust them. It's not the case with silicon escapements. They're simply anti-magnetic, but they look and act just like a regular escapement or one made from transitional metals. Now this one's got hours, minutes, date, day, month, year, moon phases, power reserve indicator, jumping seconds, tourbillon, perpetual calendar, and a special escapement. It must have a special escapement. Notice that the crown is down at 6 o'clock, right under that. This is a would be a handful for a watch. Now, iconic, I often refer to this category as that they run out of ideas, and I'm not sure if, I guess Urich has a reputation for making unusual watches, but this is the one I like. It's got a caliber 2.02 by Urich, self-winding mechanical 4 hertz. Usually not the kind of thing I like. I prefer the hand wound and a lower frequency. This one's 30,268 Swiss francs. That's a lot, especially for in the iconic group. But it's a cool looking watch. I like what they've done with it. And it's got a jumping hour and then a minute that's like a, I don't know, it sort of does look a little like a bathroom scale, I suppose, but still, it's an interesting watch. Now, this next one is this Daniel Roth Tourbillon subscription. I can't say it correctly in French, which is subscription, something like that. Caliber DR001. Now, there are a lot of interesting things about this watch. 140,000 Swiss francs, again, something I can't afford. This watch originally, there was I don't know how many years between the time that Daniel Roth left Bulgari and the time that he returned. What happened when he left, when he entered into Bulgari, he entered into it with an agreement that they took the Daniel Roth name. It belonged to them legally. And so for a number of years, he had another kind of name with Jean Daniel, somebody named after his wife and his kids or something like that. And so he was sort of off by himself for a number of years. And then I think it was LVMH, Louis Vuitton, that said, look, wouldn't it be great to have Daniel Roth back? Not just the name, but his work. And this is one of my very favorite works of his. Manual wound, 3 hertz, and a power reserve of 80 hours. Now, what they say about this is interesting. They say it's manufactured entirely by La Fabrique du Temps, which is the movement arm of LVMH, and mentioning Michael Navas and Enrico Barbassini. These guys are both in their own right really top-notch watchmakers, and I guess, I don't know whether they involved Daniel Roth or how they did, but they did use, that is his design, his movement design. It's another watch I'd like to have that I can't afford. Now this one is, I'm not too sure about this one in terms of even wanting it. I do like Laurent Ferrier. This one's got a lot going on. 86,480. Calendar and astronomy watch. I'm just not sure about it, but I do like it. It's called the Classic Moon Silver. The reason I'm not too sure about it, I just got a Parmigiani Tonda 1950 Lune, and it has this wonderful northern and southern hemisphere moon phase. I believe this one does too, and that's the only thing. Why would I want a watch that has pretty much like I have? But I really like the designs of Laurent Ferrier, both the movements as well as the watches themselves. Now, this next watch from the Mechanical Exception, this one is 702,000, over my budget once again. The thing I liked about it so much was really it's a world timer it's got in it, among everything else. It's called the Beauvais 1822 Recital 28 Prowess 1. The caliber R28 7000X, manual winding, 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. That's another thing, 2.5 hertz. And then a power reserve of 240 hours, man, that's a lot. Now, this is what it does. It takes care of the hours, minutes, seconds, date, day, month, year, power reserve indicator, world time, tourbillon, perpetual calendar, and daylight saving time indication. And one thing about that is incredible, Europe and the US have different dates that begin and end daylight saving times, and apparently it accounts for, whoever has it, wherever. what a watch. Something, again, like I said, these are ones I chose, not that I think they're going to win. Some of them probably will, but rather I just thought, wow, that'd be a nice watch to have. Okay, now this one is unusual in about 50 different ways. Okay, first of all, it's from Messina Lab. It's a chronograph. I'm not crazy about chronographs. And it's a Montpensier, Sylvain Pinault, and Messina Labs. Now, I have a great deal of respect for Sylvain Pinault as a really top-notch watchmaker, and Messina Lab has been teaming up with some of these guys, and I think it's a great idea, especially for watch collectors. Now, what they have, the gear train and the escapement are based on the ETA 6498. It happens to be a watch I like, a movement I like. 6498-1 is the one that runs at 18,000 semi-oscillations per hour. This is from the chronograph group. One I really like. Okay, moving on along. Now, this one is really an amazing one. This one is the Singer Reimagined Dive Track. Now, the name is important. It's got, the caliber is basically the Agengraph made by Agenor. And it's got 3 hertz power reserve of 72 hours, chronograph, 24 central chronograph. Yes, it's a chronograph, no doubt about it, but what a chronograph this is, beside the price tag of $91,000. It's for divers, but it's got 3 categories for divers. I don't think this is for diving in the water. Maybe it is, but it's got 3 categories. One they call chill. This is for from 0 to 6 hours. And it's a zone that helps determine the surface intervals between your next dive based on factors such as the duration of the previous dive, depth, and frequency. So it keeps you from drowning yourself. The second one is a dive, 6 hours to 18 hours, indicates when you can dive again and having respected the required surface interval. And the third category is fly, which means that 18 to 24 hours is the amount of time you have to be out of a dive before you take a fly, before you go fly. It's in the sports category. Sports category traditionally has been some of the more modest price watches, and here this thing is $91,000. What fun. What a fun watch to have. Okay, going on, this next watch is Kadoki's 3 Salmon. Now, essentially what this is the same caliber as the Kadoki 1, and it has 2 watches before this on the same caliber. But he does some wonderfully interesting different things with each one. The first one was pretty much a 3-hander. The second one had a day-night indicator. And this third one, to me, is by far the most interesting. It's got 3-hour tracks. And to do this, you have a 3-armed hand. And so on the hand, you have these 3 different lengths of hands. And depending on the time, they'll go out they will end up on one of these 3 tracks. What a neat watch. Petite Aiguille, 9,905. That's really at the high end, very high end of the Petite Aiguille. They start at 3,500. So, but I mean, if like I said, I'm not choosing a winner. I'm choosing ones I like, and I like this one. Okay, now the final one is from the Challenge group. It's called the Bleu Seconde French. I'm probably terrible with the French, and I apologize for that. The caliber was described as a France Ibosches FE. Now, somewhere else I read it was a Miyota. The price would indicate more Miyota, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, in terms of the assumption. But what I read, they said it's all made in France, and on the movement itself, you can see it says made in France. So it's likely it's self-winding mechanical, 4 hertz power reserve 46 hours. Got hours, minutes, and what's called the seconds and flying seconds. This watch I had mentioned earlier in another review, and I thought, wow, this is an interesting watch, especially for a challenge watch. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a hard time keeping this one in stock. It's 1,490 Swiss francs. Anyway, those are the watches that I thought, wow, these would be fun to have from the nominated watches. I got mosquito bites. The mosquitoes got me. Anyway, I would be very much interested in what of the watches that were in the nominations that you like, comments you have on these watches. This is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders with his mosquito bites, and the last time I get to wear my white linen suit because Labor Day is coming up. Take care.